Can you please tell me if you see
Yeah.
the opening of the PowerPoint?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So I guess we just start. For the people who just entered the room, my name is Mai, and I'm from Amsterdam University of Applied Science. We are partner university with Isario. But right now I'm in Australia, so that's why I say buenos dias. I hope my I just quickly get what is good morning in Spanish. But it's midnight here, so hopefully I go through this. So what I'm going to share with you today is about neuroscience and change. And this is part of the curriculum here in our business school. We have 1 or 2 lectures on change management, and I also incorporated neuroscience into that as well. I just published this book. It's Cross-Control Management with Insight from Brain Science just a few months ago with Rowledge. It's part of the international business study. And most of the time, the knowledge of neuroscience that I got into this one is mostly my expertise. And I got it from the master degree that I received from King's College London. It's about applied neuroscience. It's about 2 years. So yeah, it's kind of really weird because I already a PhD for 20 years, but I decided, wow, if you really want to know, then you need to actually sit in the class. So the book has a few chapters, and you can see that here are the chapters of the books. What I really want to show is that there are 2 parts of it for each chapter. I always touch on the biology, so the neuroscience of the topic, and then the behavioral part of the topic. So for each chapter, there are always 2 of them. And today we're going to talk about change management. And it's just 1 chapter of the book. If you're interested in that, just send me a request and I see what I can do with that. So the objectives today is to understand the neuroscience of habit and why change is so challenging. And then the second one is to introduce a framework that I created as a result of one of my studies, one of my elective in the studies of how to change successfully based on neuroscience. So that's basically our 2 topics today. I'm not sure how much time do I have. I think it's about 45 minutes, an hour, right, Valeria?
Yes, exactly, Professor Mai. You have 1 hour or 1 hour and a half if the participants seem
Yeah.
to agree with it.
Okay, yeah. So I try to go through that, and then hopefully we have some time at the end for Q&A. So we all know about change and how important it is to talk about change at this moment, because the ability to change is very critical for development, especially with us in our business. And in our time of VUCA, so the world we are living right now is absolutely VUCA. The ability to change is actually a survival skill. Can you go through this pandemic in a smooth way, or do you have to struggle with that? So it's volatility, it's uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So the need to change is there. However, it's quite difficult to change. And I'm going to just share with you a few statistics here that 90% of the New Year resolution failed. And when it comes to organization, 25% of change initiative are successful, leaving 75% not successful in organizational context. So change is very difficult, and I'm going to explain why, and I'm going to use a very, how to say that, casual language. It's really just casual language with the purpose to make it easy to remember. The reason why change is so challenging is to see that the brain is lazy, the brain is a control freak, and the brain is a copycat. So let's explore the reason why one by one, okay? So first, the brain is lazy. And when I say the brain is lazy, it's lazy in the sense that it wants routines to save energy. to be cost effective, so we can focus on tasks that are important and that is needed. So in this picture, you can see that the habit loop in the brain, so here is the habit loops, is linked with the sensory motor cortex. And the sensory motor cortex is there to help you have this kind of automatic motor skill. So when you want to do something, it's automatic. You don't have to think about it. It's quick, and it's really connected with habit as well. You don't have to think about that. You know, brushing your teeth, for example, is a habit that you don't have to think about it. And to compare, you have the goal direction loop, which involves the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is like the headquarters of your brain. And it's aimed for cognitive process, is a decision making. So our action is calculated. You can see that this is the reason why our habit is so automatic. And when you want to get away from the habit, you need to involve the prefrontal cortex, which is calculated. And that is why it is it can be more energy costing. So the brain is also lazy in the sense that it doesn't want to shift between tasks. And that's why we shouldn't try to multitask, because this kind of switching from one task to another can cost up to 40% of our productive time. So when we change, we tend to lose what we have had in the past. And in the brain, being cost effective is seen as a loss. When you change, you lost what you've had. So that's why for the brain, change means effort. And also, to a certain extent, change means loss as well. So that's number one. The brain is lazy. The second is the brain is a control freak. And it's control freak in a way that it aims to get us away from threats such as uncertainty and towards a reward such as the safe feeling of seeing something familiar, something similar to us. That's the reward for the brain. And we feel as if we are winning ourselves. In the sense of, okay, I'm going to show you a very interesting study. So in this brain scan, you can see that when we see people who are similar to us winning, we feel as if that we are winning ourselves. I'm going to repeat it again. When we see people who are similar to us winning, we feel as if we are winning ourselves. So in this brain scan, you see that the purple and the pink are overlapping with each other in the reward center. And so the brain loves similarity because it confirms our own ego that we are good. And the brain also loves familiarity because it means safety. If it's familiar, there's nothing different. It means safety. And even when being familiar means bad, we can still get used to that. For example, if you work in a toxic working environment, or you're in an abuse relationship, or you have a bad habit of smoking or drinking too much, you know it's bad, but it's familiar, and we still get used to that, and we don't want to get away from it because that's familiar, and because what's familiar is safety. So that's the second reason why changing is so difficult. Now, because change means uncertainty, the brain often predicts the worst when we are in an uncertain situation, when we face the unknown. It's the same when your partner or your children do not come home on time, you think of all the things that can happen to them, and your imagination just runs wild. Now, in this study, it's quite interesting because you can see that when you are stressful, so here you can see that your stress level is really high when you are in an uncertain situation, but then slowly you get habituated to the situation. So uncertainty and especially the reason why we are talking about this is the uncertain situation we have with the pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen next month or next semester in my school, for example. We don't even know if we have to teach online for a long time. So uncertainty is really the brain's enemy. We do not like uncertainty. And if there is anyone out there who's in the management, it's really important that we give people some certainty in this kind of context. So we also have another reason that the brain is a copycat. Now, to understand why, so let's have a look at this picture. Don't be afraid, it's very simple. So you see, we have two main kinds of neurons. One is the sensory neurons, and that kind of neuron would receive, in this case, pain signal when we touch the cactus. So that's one kind of neurons that we have. The second kind of neurons we have is the motor neurons, and that send action signal to our muscles so we can act and get away from the pain. Now, we also have a third kind of neurons, and it's called the mirror neurons. I'm not sure if you heard about that, but it's like a big thing in neuroscience when it was discovered. This kind of mirror neurons mirror our action. So it's both. It has the function of both. It has both the sensory and the motor function. And it is normally located in this kind of areas in our brain. Now, so the mirror neurons have both functions. And that is why they activated when we observe someone having a movement, so that's the sensory, and when we do the movement ourselves, so that's motor function. And it helps us to copy the thought, copy the emotion, and copy the behavior of the others. Now, if I'm seeing you now smiling, the part of my brain that activate when I smile will be activated even though I'm not smiling at all. So I copy what you are thinking, I'm copying what you are doing, and copy what you are feeling with the mirror neurons in my brain. So change means battles against the mirror neurons. And we have to fight against the whole army of mirror neurons because they just copy everything that's around. So if you want to change and then people around you are still having the same old habit, it's really difficult. It's very challenging to change because your brain just copy all of them. For example, you want to quit smoking and people around you keep smoking, your mirror neuron will just be activated all the time. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. So that is why change is very difficult. So we can have a summary here. That's the first part. So we have the first point that change is challenging because the brain has spent a long time to evolve to a certain way in order to help us to survive on the savannah. It's lazy in the sense that it wants routines to save the energy. It's also a control freak. It's also in the way that it wants certainty and to avoid danger. And it's also a copycat because it wants imitation. So we can learn from people and the culture around us. Now, the modern life is very different from the life on the savannah. But the brain still works in the same old way. It's really important that we are in the modern time, but we have the same old brain. Our brain is still the same old machine that helped our ancestors many thousand years ago on the savannah. So we have the same old machine that is working in the modern time. And that is why change is so challenging because the brain's working style may not support this modern way of working. So that's the first part of the of our talk today. I just want to have a quick break and see if you have any question, and if not, I can move to the second one, the second part.
Thank you, Professor Mai.
Yes.
If any participants have any questions, you can write it down in the chat, or you can unmute your mic and do it directly to Professor Mai. So please, if anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Valeria. Thanks, Professor May. Thank you
Hi,
for
Rafael.
your your. It's very interesting what you have been explaining to us. I was wondering, for example, if in relation to uncertainty, there was some cultural, if effect, as Hofstede says, we tend to react different between cultures in relation to uncertainty, and I was wondering if, in this case, maybe it has some relation also.
With change,
Yeah, with change. Yeah.
I think there are a few, not with neuroscience, but there are a few, of course, when it comes to uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance is probably the cultural dimension that has something to do with change. If you hide uncertainty avoiding, then you are less likely to accept change. However, I'm not a follower of Hofstede. I mean, 20 years ago when I did my PhD, I took him as, as the inspiration for my PhD. But then yeah, at least I would say that the people who are following the dynamic paradigm of culture, we grow out of it. And I certainly think that it doesn't really reflect much of the reality in business. I mean, if you look at Japan, for example, Japan has a very high uncertainty avoiding, but also Singapore. Singapore is also high uncertainty avoiding, but then the index is the opposite. Singapore has an index of 8, meaning that Singapore must be like completely off the chart when it comes to uncertainty avoidance. It has like so free and everything. But if you compare the two countries, you can see that it doesn't make sense, you know. So the index is there. Absolutely, I do normally say to my student and my clients that the index is there for the first best guess. If you have no idea about Japan or Singapore or Colombia, you can have a look at that. It's a stereotype. It's really a
Okay.
stereotype. And I cannot say that because Colombia has high uncertainty avoidance index, then I have to be careful with you guys and, you know, trying to give you as much information as possible because I'm not doing business with Colombia. I'm talking to Valeria. I'm talking to Rafael. I'm talking to specific, unique, dynamic person. Rafael is not Colombia.
Okay. Okay. I understand.
Yeah.
So it's not like that culture, for example, has that. Do you not think that has that impact? You understand?
I think there can be some impact, but it shouldn't be too influential that would be the only factor that we take into account. It may, but for example, you don't do business with a country. So if you
Yeah.
have a marketing project, I would say, okay, who's your target? How old are they? Men or women living in urban or suburban? That's the kind of country you should focus on, not a country. I don't think national index has that much of an impact.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, May. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can, this is a little bit off topic with neuroscience, but it's also at the heart of my research. So Rafael, if you're interested, just send me an email. I send you some sample chapter of my book and you see a little bit more of my view on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, May.
Thanks.
And well, I have another question, but I think I want to ask to
Towards the
listen.
end.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's.
You can go away. Do it your second question, Rafael, because we don't have any other in line.
Okay. Well, it's related to change. You know, I'm working on sustainability topics, and I've been wondering, how to engage in this change process with
Yeah.
students and also with
Yeah.
consumers. We are supposed to be working all together towards sustainability, and I was listening to the first part of your talk, and I see that it's not easy, right? And we,
Right.
as a society, we do not seem to be going in the right way or at the right pace, at the right speed. So I was wondering about that, about how can we, get into the change in
which is the second part of my of my talk. You get right into it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think we can see the second part of my talk as a kind of a general way to look at it, and then of course you have to change a little bit when it comes to a specific thing. So I'm going to just give you the framework. And for example, I'm writing a paper on bias management. So how to change, the way that people have bias against others. Like, when you think about Colombia, this is the kind of stereotype you have. So how can you change that? Because that's dangerous, And I also use this framework to figure out what kind of strategies to apply. So yeah, it's a general framework, but you can change a little bit when it comes to specific topic, like in your case, sustainability. So let's move on, and if you have time, we can focus on your specific topic. Is that okay?
Thank you, May. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Great.
Sure. So this is a framework that I've been I briefly talk about. It's called the STRIPE, and here we have a very, very quick way of looking at that. It's safety, triggers, reward, emotion, alignment, people, and behavior. I created this framework as a result of my neuroscience study because I figured out that although we have a lot of change framework, I mean, change management has been there for 60 years. Probably a little bit more since 11, but we have so many frameworks, but I don't see any framework that incorporated neuroscience. So that's why I created this one and see, well, how, in what way we can incorporate brain science into understanding change. We're gonna go through each one slowly. So here we have safety. Let me try to switch the frame because this one is a bit small for me. Okay, so number one is S, and S means safety. And change happens when we, I mean, people can change when you threaten them. If I say that, Valeria, if you do not change right now, you lose your job. I'm threatening you, and probably you change, sorry to say that. But so you can change with threatening. The thing is that we have 45 years of research on threat appeal, and it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You may change right now, but it's not because you are really wanting to change. It's only on the surface. You're just busy protecting yourself. So it's not sustainable. And you can think about climate change, for example. People talk about climate change and using threatening messages. And then people just don't want to hear about that anymore, because people don't want to be threatened. You change when you feel safe. You don't change. I mean, you're scared a little bit away, but it's not sustainable. So that's why, sustainability with Raphael, if you talk with people, hey, if you do not, save this plastic, chain and drink this instead of plastic, you contaminate your environment and your offspring will be the victim. People will listen, but I don't think it's going to stay long because they want to protect themselves instead of they really want to change. So that's one thing when we want to talk about sustainability. We think we talk too much about threatening negative messages. And why do I say that? Because I also find backup in neuroscience as well. So here's the brain on safety. We are threatened when these 5 things are threatened. So for example, we want to secure our status in the hierarchy. If we want to predict what will happen in the future, so that's certainty. We want to control our life. We want to keep a good relationship with others, and we want to be treated fairly. So these are 5 issues that the brain does not want to, that we don't want to violate in the brain. If you violate any of these issues in the brain will feel that it is threatened and it's not going to change in a sustainable way. If you say that, Raphael, if you do not change, you are going to have to report twice per month instead of, like you're losing autonomy. You may say, yeah, I do that. But, your brain is completely saying different things. So when these safety issues are violated, fear happens. In the brain on fear, this is the brain on fear. This is a PET scan. It shows the overreacted amygdala. I don't know if you know about the amygdala, but it's the emotion center of the brain. And it's very sensitive to all kinds of emotion, but it's the most sensitive to fear. And when the brain is on fear, the amygdala is activated. And you can see that the two white arrows on the left is showing to a much stronger green reaction from the amygdala. And if this happens too often, fear can lead to inflammation and many disease risks as well. And that's why we have a lot of mental health issues in the pandemic, because people are fearful and threatened with amygdala. And it's not just one thing. I mean, if you are out there and then the traffic is busy, yes, you are scared, but for just 1 second, this is happening for a year already, and you have a chronic stress, and that's really bad. And if you manage by fear, you know, a lot of management does that by fear, this is gonna happen. People don't change because they're fearful. So that's the brain on fear. Now let's talk about the strategy. The strategy for safety is to ensure that we have safety and we make people to build trust. Now, trust is a deal breaker in the process. If you do not have trust, don't think about change. And when trust happens, our brain is flooded with a hormone called the oxytocin. It's called the love hormone. I hate that. I don't know why people call it the love hormone. It is the hormone. It is a kind of, you know, hormone that make you trust people that you think as your in group. That's how put it that way. And it makes us very generous and open-minded to others, you know, when you trust others. So in this experiment, they have the oxytocin in your, like a nasal spray, so they spray it in your nose. Normally it happens naturally in your brain, but, you know, in this experiment, they spray it in your nose. And they found out that the people in the experiment, they trusted their counterpart even after they learned that their trust had been breached several times. How amazing it is. Now, I know Raphael is wanting to have some oxytocin spray in the office right now, so everybody can trust him unconditionally. I see his face now.
I need that. I really need it.
It doesn't last long, Raphael, so reconsider. But the best way is that you can try to make it happen in a natural way, that people can have it naturally happen in the brain. And that's why trust can be so amazing, because you trust people even when you know that you were betrayed by your in-group people. That's amazing, isn't it? Now, the next strategy is to ensure that that you have several choices. When you have choices, you feel safe. When you have no choices, you feel like you are cornered. But remember, only several ones, not too many, because when you have too many, you are overloaded and you feel unsafe again. And that is like the best strategy for marketing, is to have like 3 ranges of prices. Remember about marketing? And then people always choose the middle one. It's quite interesting that brain loves just a few simple choices. And as a result, you can see here, let me see, what do I have here for you as an example? I have the example with the to-do list. And you can see that a lot of people have a to-do list and they don't do it. Do you know why?
I think we go, you know, for the first task.
Valeria, I want to say something. Valeria probably have a lot of to-do list. Come on, Valeria.
Yes, I was going to say that just life gets in the way. I mean, it's difficult because you would like to do it and be really organized, but then life happens and other things start distracting you, and then the to-do list just stays there, adding up things, but not always in the same way.
My to-do list. It doesn't work, you know why? Because it's too many. Yeah, and it's always, it makes you feel unsafe because there's, like Valeria just said, there's always more and more and more and more. You can never finish it. So one way to do it is to have a to-do list. And so this is my to-do list. I should show you. And I have my to-do list. I normally just have like a sticker. Say, if I'm happy, I put down 3 things or 4 things and say, if I can do this today, I'm happy.
3 things, right?
A few things.
Few things. Yeah.
And it should be easy to accomplish. So normally I try to put out like 5 or 6 and I scratch 1 or 2 away. I want to make it easy for myself. So it's really important. I need to make it manageable for me because the brain wants to be in control. Remember, the brain is a control freak. And the to-do list freaks it out. When can I finish this? My partner works in the army and he comes home and he's always very, very tired. I mean, like he has probably 20 different phone, calls every hour. It's driving him crazy. And I also tell him that, yeah, okay, try to have a today list or this hour's list, make it controllable for the brain. So figure it out. Anyway, let's move on. I don't even know what I'm going to have here for you, but let's click. So control. People also more likely to change if they are in control. If you know about the Hawthorne effect, probably you know about the Hawthorne effect in business, is when workers are in control of their situation, the productivity goes up. So to let them in control is really important. And for people who are micromanagement, I don't know if you have one, but I used to have one boss who is micromanagement, is a disaster. It was a nightmare. Please don't be such a boss yourself. If you have people talking about yourself in a conference like this. So here I have a study for you that employees in the study were willing to give up 20% of their paycheck. So their salary goes down 20% in exchange for greater control of their work. Google, for example, would assign a portion of the time for the employees to conduct whatever project they are interested in. And many of these projects turn out to be a great product. So if you give people, hey, you have 100 hours per year, do whatever you want, they come up with something really amazing. So give them the autonomy. The brain wants control. Give it. So finally, we also have clarity. It's really important for change to happen because, again, the brain wants certainty. It wants clarity. It wants to know what's going to happen. And people, it's in a change process. If you want people to change, they are often left in the unknown. And guess what's going to happen? If Raphael tell people that we have to change our policy for sustainability, so okay, if we change, what's going to happen? It's so uncertain in the future. If I don't use this plastic cup, what's going to happen? I mean, if you can tell them that, okay, this is a result, this is the alternative, that's probably a little bit better. So it's very important that we communicate very clearly. This is, if A not happen, then B. If B not happen, then C. People just feel really better if we give them that kind of clarity. Remember that when the brain is uncertain, it predicts the worst. So communication is the key here. Okay, so that's the safety. Oh, yes. No news is actually bad news. Yeah. Raphael wants to say something, right?
Yeah, I was wondering about the trust strategy.
Yeah.
What's your advice on gaining trust?
What's my strategy on gaining trust?
Your advice, or what would you say? How can we gain trust in people?
Oh my God! Trust strategy has probably even longer research history than change management. So you really have to look it up yourself. There's so many. One way, I like it, my way. Okay, one top strategy off my head, I do similarity. You trust people who are similar to you. I mean, the brain wants similarity, remember? So if you want to gain the trust from a new colleague, just try to think of something that you may share with each other. And you can see that half state, for example. I mean, what it annoys me because it's all about differences. I mean, the first thing that we talk about in cross-cultural communication and management is how Colombian are different from, I don't know, Canadian or America. So it all of a sudden, the first thing you signal the brain is differences. We are different from them. They are our group. They may be a danger, maybe a kind of a problem. It doesn't work with the brain. You prepare the brain for failure. You prepare the brain for fighting with enemy. The first thing you need to do is how and in what way the Colombian and the Canadian are similar to each other, in what way we share the same goal, in what way we have the same common foundation, in what way we have the same interest. And that should be the first thing. And when we have the trust, you can talk about differences, but then at that time, differences do not signal fear anymore.
Okay.
Good.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the top of my head, but there's so many. But that's my favorite strategy.
Similarities, yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Really easy. It's easy. I mean, like, come on, look at us. I'm yellow. You probably white. You men. I'm a female. You are from, I don't know, from the other side of the world. I'm from a completely different side of the world. If I only focus on the way we are different, it's going to be hard.
Difficult.
It's going to be hard. And I'm not even touching values and norms and all kind of power distance and that shit. So just a test.
Okay.
Anyway, let's move on because I don't have a lot of time left, I guess. Okay, so let's go to T, and T means trigger here. Just give me 1 second to change the frame. Now, the T in stripping means trigger, and this element it's quite interesting because it has only 3 steps, and I'm going to just show you the brain habit. So first we have trigger to signal the habit. So if you have a habit, like, I don't know what kind of habit, let's say you check your social media, you wake up, you check your social media. So waking up is a trigger. So that's the trigger. The routine, which is the habit itself, which is checking social media, and the reward, which is the result from it. You check the social media and you feel like you are updated, you feel good. So that's the reward. So there are 3 things when it comes to habit. And the reward can be feeling familiar, and that's why you keep coming back to people who abused you. It's familiar. It's quite interesting how trigger and habit can be. This is the dog of the Pavlov, and we're probably very familiar with that, having a habit and probably not even knowing why it's coming to it. The trigger is, the ring. And we do it subconsciously. We do, this is a kind of habit that happens without our conscious thinking. So the strategy to deal with the habit loop, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna go down a little bit here so I can see a bit more of my screen. So the strategy to deal with this trigger is quite interesting and pretty simple as well. First, we need to identify the trigger, and then we keep the reward. Remember, identify the trigger, keep the reward, and insert a new routine. And this is an example from myself, just make it really simple so you can understand it. I used to eat a lot of blue cheese. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit embarrassing, but I love blue cheese a little bit too much. So I figure out the trigger is when I go to the supermarket myself, I bought blue cheese, but not when someone does the shopping for me. So I could forget the blue cheese for days. So going to the supermarket is the trigger for me. Now, I had to try quite a number of routines to figure out what are the matches that can, be on the same level with the kind of reward that blue cheese give me, because I still have to go to the supermarket somehow. So I bought my favorite. So this is my reward. I feel good now. So I have a new routine. I bought my favorite foods. In this case, I bought olive. It doesn't work. I still do not feel the same reward as I had with blue cheese. I had another one, and I'm not going to bother you with all the mundane thing, but it turned out to be wine, a lot of wine, a lot of red wine. So, and I feel the same level of reward as I eat the blue cheese. So it's just a stupid example, I have to say, but it is an example just to, give you a kind of understanding of what it is to keep the reward, identify the trigger, and change the routine. Now, that's a trigger. We're gonna move to the next one, which is the R, means reward. We have already talked about that briefly in the last one, that the brain wants pleasure and familiarity as well. So that's the kind of reward that the brain wants, and also short-term reward, which sometimes come at the cost of long-term damage. For example, we eat a lot of unhealthy food, we smoke, so those are short-term reward, but it comes at the cost of long-term damage. And it also avoids, the brain also evolves to avoid mistake as well. And when we avoid mistake, it's also a reward in itself. So how does that happen in the brain? Let's say so this is a brain and a few brain areas that are connected with reward. Now, let's say someone gives you a compliment. Or say someone say that, well, Mai, you have a new glasses and that looks good on you. So I got a compliment. Now, if I got that kind of compliment, first the VTA then release a hormone for attention called the dopamine. Now, the dopamine then goes to the emotion center, or the emotion detective center, the amygdala, and it may say, this is a good feeling. The amygdala tells me this is a good feeling. Then it goes to the memory center, which is the hippocampus, and it may say, Mai, remember everything. Who says this compliment? How it is said? Where it is said? So you have to remember this. So I can say you can get another compliment. And then the dopamine goes to the nucleus accumbens, which involves motor functioning. And it may say, let's take some action so you can have the same reward again, And then finally, the dopamine goes to the frontal cortex. That is where I consciously plan on what to do to get that reward again. So for example, if one of you say, Mai, you have beautiful glasses, and I will just remember everything and try to do something, plan something so I can have the same reward again, the same compliment again. So there are many ways to, to hack our reward system. I'm going to go to the strategy right now. And one of them is to imagine new routines and reward. Let's have a look at the studies. I will say imagine. Imagination is a powerful thing that sometimes we forget. But I'm going to show you a very interesting study. So in this study, we have one group of participants who were asked to sit and visualize if they were doing a workout. So they just visualize it. And then we have another group was asked to imagine how they were doing the workout, but also how they felt as well. So try to evolve, the emotion part of the imagination process. So how they push the dumbbells up and down and sweat out everything. So after 6 weeks, those who imagine both how they look and how they feel, they gained more muscle strength. Isn't it amazing? You imagine and you have more muscle strength. When I told this to my students, they didn't believe it. It was like, how can I? You can get fit just by imagining. That's how it is. So in fact, this is a technique used by top athletes. If you talk about top, top sport people, they always imagine how they are about to compete. And they even imagine how they win as well. They play it again and again and again in their brain. And that's why they become so good at it. It's a kind of a mental rehearsal, an exercise for the actual event. The more mental rehearsal there is, the easier it is it's going to be. It's really cool. Huh? So the next strategy for reward is to turn a mistake into an opportunity to learn. It is really important for those of us who work in education. So in this brain scan, you can see that there's a difference between punishment learning and reward learning. So punishment learning is when people try to avoid mistake, try to avoid having a bad grade, for example. And reward learning is when you, so you can see that the reward learning on the right-hand side, that's the ventral striatum, is where the brain area that is associated with reward. And one example is when you show people that this is where you did wrong. Next time, you should try to avoid this. And when people have an opportunity to learn from mistake, the brain thinks that is reward. And that is why it's really important for those of us to show students that this is where they did it wrong and give them the opportunity to move from it. We normally have a lot of assignment and give them the final grade. And then students just don't have any other choice to improve from that grade. The grade is the final, it's definite. But if we kind of stop in the midway and give them the opportunity to improve, to give them comment, they be motivated and the brain will see that as a reward. Let me move on to the next strategy is small rewards and small wins. Now the brain loves short-term reward. Remember that it wants to have really short, like the chocolate now, cigarette now, a drink now, and kind of disregard the consequence in the long term. So we need to create a series of small rewards that pave the way for a new habit. So I'm going to show you a little bit of my personal experience. So this is the back cover of my my notebook, and you can see that this is my goals in 2019. If you have a goals and you do not write it down, then you kind of forget it. But if you write it down, you also need to make it small rewards as well. And this is what I do in order to build a new habit. I monitor it every day. So for example, if I want to build a new habit of, let me say, here I wanna build a new habit of meditation. I would try to monitor it at the end of each day by giving it a tick. So it is a small reward. Before I go to bed, I tick. Have I meditated today? Yes. Have I played music? Yes. Have I learned 5 minutes of new language? Yes. You know, all those things. All these are the habits I want to build, and I want to make it a small reward of having a tick. So every time when I tick, the brain thinks, oh, that's a reward. And I am addicted to this kind of ticks, addicted to this kind of rewards, and you know, kind of like want me to do it again every day. So that's my personal way of getting a reward. Okay, am I going too fast? Nope. Okay, good. Let me move on to the next one. Just, you know, interrupt me if you want to have any question at all. So here is the next one. It's the E of triple E that stands for emotion. Now, if you look around, just look around. Every items around you has a name. You know, this is a notebook. This is a phone. You know, everything has a name. Now, in your brain, neuroinformation has emotional name as well. So everything, this one, you call it a phone. Your brain calls it happy. Because when you look at it, the emotion attached to it is happy. You get what I mean? Yes.
That's the addiction, right? Where it comes the addiction to
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, of course it can have more than just one name, you know. It can be scary and, you know, happy and everything, but it has an emotional tag to everything that you have around you. So the brain helps, this is really important because it helps the brain to make a decision. If it does not have a name as an emotional tag, it doesn't know how to make a decision. If the name is happy, I want more. If the name is scary, I don't want it. You know, so emotion tags are there for us to make decision. Now, let's have a look. So this is the brain on emotion. Oh, sorry, I actually forgot to click. So we have label for neural information, and it's very important for decision making. Now, I want to introduce to you a very famous patient in my study. He's called Elliot, patient Elliot. He's so famous. Now, because he had a brain tumor, so part of his brain was removed. And this part was very crucial in emotional processing. Now, after the surgery, he became a very rational person. In fact, he was so rational that he would spend hours to choose between, like, for example, a blue or green shirt to wear, because he just, you know, trying to put all kind of argument, which color should I wear? So he likes that kind of emotional label that gives him the final nudge. Oh, I love green, just go for green, because the green t-shirt just doesn't have the emotional label of happy or funny. It doesn't have the emotional, so it doesn't know what to choose.
So we need
And
em- we need emotions to make decisions, right?
exactly.
So
There's
decision making is not rational
oh no,
completely.
no decision in life is rational. Actually, every decision is a combination of rational and emotional together. you you cannot have any, you cannot, let me explain this a little bit further. So funny. So his doctor described him, and this is the quote: uh, the cold-bloodedness of his reasoning prevented him from assigning different values to different options, and this made his decision-making landscape hopelessly flat. And with a lack of emotion, he actually messed up his whole life. He lost his job and his wife divorced him.
Because this also has to do with empathy, for example, and emotional intelligence.
Everything, everything, everything. Empathy is even higher. Is even higher. You need emotion to even choose to drink coffee or tea,
Yeah.
let alone trying to understand what Raphael's thinking.
Yeah. It's very interesting because in management we speak about decision making all the time. We
Yeah.
develop these so sophisticated techniques to
Nah.
help managers make decisions, and emotions and particular interests are bias are
Yeah.
present
Yeah.
all
And
the
of
time.
course, we can try to be rational, but we always have emotion as the real decision making of what to do. I mean, you can always do that, but it's a combination of both. And everybody who's saying other thing, meaning that we're just trying to fool ourselves. And I mean, we have neuroscience, you know, trying to do that. Although, if you want to read a book, it's called oh, what is that? Descartes' Error. It's written by Amodio, and
Ah,
it's been there for years, talking about emotion and how important it is in decision making. I mean, when it comes to decision, it's always emotion and rationality. And many people even say that rationality is just we. So if I want to drink tea, Coke or Pepsi, for example, there's a beautiful neuroscience study about Coke and Pepsi. I normally just, you know, blindfold my student and give them Coke or Pepsi for them to drink. All of them say that they prefer Coke. They say Coke is the best. Blindfold them, give them Coke and Pepsi. They don't even know what they're drinking.
you don't know. Yeah.
but if but if you put their brain under the scanner, you will see that when they know they are drinking Coke, the reward center is activated. So they drinking Coke. It tastes exactly the same like Pepsi, but they feel that it is better.
Because there is an emotion attached to it, right?
Exactly,
That's what
exactly.
the
Because they
marketing made.
choose exactly. So the marketing strategy of Coke is just amazing because it's just tap on the emotion, opening the happiness, for example, that sort of thing. Yeah. Anyway, where I am, this is the thing I was going to start.
Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. Make it a little bit more natural. All right, so let's move on to we have the strategy for emotion. So if we acknowledge the insight that neuroscience gives us, that emotion is actually driver to our change, then it's very important to figure out what makes people move forward. Excuse me.
Right.
What kind of emotion make them move forward? So you can try to figure out and identify it, but it can be pride. For some people, it's pride that makes them change. For some people, it's knowledge that makes them change. For some people, it's confidence that makes them change. And for some people, it's being meaningful. For some people, it's being competitive with the others. You just have to figure out what kind of emotion is important for this person so this person can change. And say, if you want to target young people for sustainability, for example, young people love to make impact. If you tell
Mhm.
them that you are the change agent of the world and blah, they love it. They probably have very little knowledge. They probably have a little bit, you know, a little bit lower level of confidence, but they want to make an impact. They want to be acknowledged. So you need to figure out what kind of emotion it is for them to move forward. Now, the strategy to go hand in hand with emotion management is to try to figure, because emotion is not always, you can be so emotional, like both men and women are accused of being emotional. I've seen men accusing women of, you are so emotional. And I've seen women accusing men of, you need to go to anger management.
Nowadays, more frequently.
And to be honest, I love it because I now say, I still feel embarrassing, but I once told a male executive, do you know who's behind all the wars in the human history? Man.
Yeah.
And you tell me that I'm emotional? Sorry.
Facts, just facts, yeah.
Yeah, I know I was really mean, but I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it when he told me that I was emotional, and I was telling him that, yeah, it's anger that caused. Anyway, again, I lost it. Yeah, we have to manage our emotions, very important. And the last one is to have a happy workplace. It's really important to create a happy workplace in order for people to change. People change absolutely faster when they are in the happy mood. And there are so many studies that prove that when they are in happy mood, they are even riskier as well. They take risk. It's amazing. They take risks to change. We also have, I don't know what I have in here, but another strategy is to ask for advice. Once an advice is given. So for example, if I ask Raphael for advice and Raphael, after giving my advice, being my advocate, because you are part of my plan, you're part of, my world already. So it's really important that you ask people for advice. It's amazing when I ask my student, what is your advice in this situation? And they are so willing to act when they are given that kind of opportunity. The A, the okay, so let me try to put this on here. The A stands for alignment, and the brain on alignment is it's we call it in-group bias. We want to align with people that we perceive as our in-group. So for our ancestor, in-group people are those that they can trust. So in contrast, out-group means the potential threat. And so when we meet a person, the brain automatically, I say automatically, let me go back to that one. The brain automatically assigns this person to in-group or out-group based on skin color, gender, language, or even clothes. We look at those very simple signal and we decide if this person is our in-group or not. So in this brain scan, you can see that the brain activated very differently when we communicate with people who we perceive as in-group or out-group. So this process is automatic. We can't help it. And if we say that, well, we are inherently racist or sexist, that's probably true as well, because we just do not control this process. It happens in our brain. What we can control is, do we act on it or not? So we probably do not have free will, but we have free want. We have the choice to act on it or not. Now, the good news is the brain can make in-group very easily. So the brain just does not see the brain does not see race or skin color or gender or religion. It sees in-group and out-group. And who belongs to in-group and out-group is a socially constructed process. And that's amazing, because then we can have a lot of strategy to deal with that. We, for example, can create a new group. So for example, if we want to make sure that people are not going to be biased towards those who are from different religion, for example, then we can create a new group. So the brain would, the brain so easily make a new group, give one group a blue t-shirt and the other a red t-shirt. After just 5 minutes, they fight for each other based on the new color of the t-shirt. So it's really important that we create a new group so we can fight for this group. We always fight for our in-group. Now, if you cannot create a new in-group, then just try to find similarities, because in similarity also signal in-group as well. And this is what I just said. We also, again, we ask for advice, also the same one I just said before. When we ask for advice, we practically make that person part of our in-group as well. The final one is to find a common enemy, and we see that a lot in corporate world. They say, wow, what is our common enemy? Who should we fight against? And when we fight a common enemy, all of a sudden we love each other and we fight for each other, and we are more willing to change as well. Sounds mean, but it works somehow. Let's move on to P. So P in TRIPE means people. And with people, I mean change agents. So naturally, number one change agent is ourselves. You are the change agent, but because we have the mirror neurons around us, so the people around us are also the change agent as well. So let's have a look at this study. And I want to add one more thing. The context around you can be change agent, and this is my new insight from neuroscience, but I'm going to explain to you. So let's have a look at this study. Now, we have context as change agent, and in this study, we have people divided into two groups. One group, we give them a text, and in that text, we have only plural pronouns like we and our and they. And in the other group, we give them the same text, but instead of the plural pronouns, we have singular pronouns like I, me, mine. And then after that, we give them a task. And we found out that the first group prefer transformational leadership, and the second group prefer transactional leadership. How amazing it is. Just reading a text can change your behavior. Reading a text can change your decision making. And this is what I mean, context as a change agent. you can actually manipulate behaviors and thinking by changing the context. And there's so many studies when it comes to context exchange agents. Sometimes it's just like having them look at a certain advertisement can change their way of negotiation. Subtly, unconsciously. So if we think about that, just pause for a moment. If a short text can change you this much, imagine a book, imagine a movie, imagine a friend, imagine a colleague, imagine a toxic or a happy working environment. Imagine a toxic or a happy family can change you. To what extent?
Just for example, the way we communicate
Mm-hmm.
using the study, the way we use words can change how others react to us.
Yes. Yeah. So it's, in a way, our environment is brainwashing us. And if we know that our environment is brainwashing us, we should proactively change the environment so we can brainwash ourselves. If I know that I'm going to be influenced by the things around me, then I should proactively change it in the way that it will influence me later on. Right? Now that's what I meant with context exchange agent. Let's move on with the strategy for P exchange agent. So number one is to focus on what we can control. And as the VUCA word is our new normal, we should focus on what we can manage, what we can do right now, and not let worrying takes up the precious time and mental power. So I always, this is my favorite saying to my student, that worrying is rehearsal for failure. It's so important that we focus on the thing that we can, can control, can manage, can get it done right at this moment. And it's really important because the brain gets calmed down when we can act on it. It doesn't matter what kind of action. If we can act something, the brain's gonna calm down. Yeah, and it's quite interesting to tell students that because they are the one who suffer a lot from mental problems, with the lack of social interaction. The second, and because people around us are change agents, the second strategy I would like to share with us is to pick our companions wisely, to pick our friends, our colleagues wisely, to pick people that we hang around wisely, because they are the one who's going to change it. And there's a saying that you are the average of your 5 best friends in terms of success and power and knowledge and everything. So think of the 5 friends and the 5 people that you hang around the most. You are the average of those people. Of course, it's not always correct, but I mean, that's a saying that we are changed by the people around us. So I remember there's a very interesting study that say your friends and colleagues influence your personality much more than your parents and your education. Much, much more. And that is why, people from the same family probably have very, very different lives, because parenting and education do not influence us that much as the people around us, as friends and colleagues. And finally, we have the context around us can change subconsciously. So we need to proactively brainwash ourselves, like I said, which we, in the way that we want to become. For example, we can make a conscious selection of social media that we use, the TV programs that we watch, or the music that we would listen and the books that we read. They change us without us knowing about it. So we probably be a little bit more aware of that. Finally, we come to the last one, which is B on behavior. So earlier we've been quickly talk about the brain plasticity and how repeated behaviors can even change our deep-rooted values. Um, I'm not sure if you are familiar with brain positives, but if you are not, just let me know so I can explain it a little bit better. But basically, the brain is not fixed. It's like a muscle, you know. The more you have a certain behavior, certain thought, it's going to change accordingly. And if you keep having the same behavior, it's going to change even the deeply rooted values as well. And back to what Raphael just said about Hofstede. So Hofstede is absolutely on the opposite side of neuroscience. His theory is that values do not change. He say that value is going to stay exactly the same even to 2050. I mean, he said that countries will always come back to the same values, but neuroscience kind of disagree with him, because if we have the, you know, a certain behavior repeated again and again and again, we can change even the deep-rooted values as well. It's called the body list and the mind when follows. And here I'm going to just show you. Let me try to narrow this down. And this is a how neurons, this is on a dish in the lab. Oops, sorry. But you can see that this is a time-lapse video of how neurons are changing as the result of our thoughts and behavior. It started with a few connections and continued to grow in a big network. You know, this is basically what happened in your brain at this moment, how we learn new things and forge new pathway, create new habit, and adapt or create a new culture. It's also a reminder for us to be aware of the direction that we are letting our brain building new connection. It depends on the stimulus around us. So the people that you hang around with, the books that you read, the job that you do, you know, the social media that you have on every day. So these kind of stimuli kind of steer and guide our brains toward a certain direction. And again, they are the bricks to build your brain. So you need to choose the material wisely, the stimuli around you, because they build this kind of network for you. Now, to accommodate this video, here is a simple model I created to make brain plasticity easier to understand. So you see, these are the two neurons, and when they communicate with each other, they don't actually touch each other, but they send neurotransmitter to a small gap, and those neurotransmitters will dock on the receptors of their counterparts. So the more you repeat a certain thought, emotion, and behavior, the more neurotransmitters will be sent off, and the dendrite will also get bigger to accommodate more receptors. And in the end, there will be a new branch, so to speak. And this is how you learn, change, and create a habit in your brain. Now, the strategy for behaviors are a lot. And I will just have a few here for you. Number one is to focus on progress and not perfection. And this can be done by having small goals, a small act, and having, you know, achieving small act and reward the brain with small wins. The brain wants rewards, but only when it's small, you know, so step by step. So when we are anxious, action can also calm the brain. So focus on what we do instead of being worried. And that is why a good enough decision is good enough. Make a decision, but not a perfect decision. It's a very good behavioral way to change and to calm the brain down. Another one I would like to share with you is that the brain is biased toward action. So for example, let's imagine that you are going to see your manager with your proposal to create a new program, for example. You have two choices. You can go to your manager and say, I have an idea. But you can also go to your manager with an action plan. And your manager is more likely to accept your proposal when you have an action plan, because the brain is biased toward action. When there's an action and there's a plan, the brain wants it. So it's really interesting tip for you. So finally, we also change ourselves in the direction of our action as well. So in that spirit, you can just, remember it as fake it until you become it. Sometimes fake it is hard. Like if you are not confident and you have to try to be confident, it's hard. But if you keep doing that, you will become more confident. It's kind of interesting. Do you know about the power pose?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Amy Cuddy, right? It's a great,
Oh yeah.
it's a great
Yeah.
message. I was
Yeah.
just thinking about that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
TED talk
Yeah. The
and
TED Talk
everything you
is.
haven't explained it to us. I think it matches, right? It's neuroscience. How can we change our
Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
from our
Yeah.
body?
Amazing. I mean, it's basically it's called a power pose. Too bad I can't explain it to you, but you just stand tall, with your feet wide, and don't do it in front of everyone. Go to the bathroom first. But go before you have a very important lecture or important meeting or important interview, go to the bathroom or go to somewhere that nobody can see you, but stand tall and just stand there for about 10 minutes and probably have some affirmation like I can do it. Take a deep breath and then stand tall and wind. Now when you do that, a certain kind of hormone like the testosterone kind of like pumps up, and then it gives you the feeling that wow, I feel good, I feel strong. And because you feel good and you feel strong, you act good, you act strong. And the consequences, people see you as good and strong. And you feel like, oh, people see me as good and strong. You feel stronger and better. It's a spiral going up and up and up. It's amazing. It's a
Yeah,
mind matter connection that fit with each other. That's
right.
very cool, huh?
Yeah.
Did you show that to your student, Raphael?
Yeah, I do. I found this video some time ago, and
Yeah.
for me, it was very inspiring because um, I think we have some voices that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes tell us that we
Mm-hmm.
cannot do it and that we should not do
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And when Amy Cuddy show his her experience, I think it's great. It's great because
Yeah.
I work in organizational behavior topics,
Yeah.
and our mind sometimes play us in the wrong way.
Yeah. Oh,
It's,
yeah. I mean, it's another really interesting study. They have three groups of people. One with a smartphone. So
yeah,
before the interview, you are on the smartphone. Another group with a how to call that, a tablet.
the
So you read
tablets.
on a tablet. And the third group with a computer, like a desk computer. So after a while reading, they have these people performing. And guess which group is performing the best?
Performing
Mm,
smartphone maybe
why?
because they're happy. They're happier or something like that. No,
I like your hypothesis, probably true with young people. No, the computer,
the
the computer
computer.
group. Yeah, do you know why? Because
No.
well, this is according to their explanation. I'm not part of the study, but when you are on your smartphone, you kind of crunch your whole body,
Ah,
look down.
okay.
That kind of body language or body
Crunches.
movement does not give you the confident boost. Does not give you the right hormone, and of course the tablet is in the middle way, and with the laptop you just sit you know comfortably. And
I was thinking we should put the camera in the in the
yeah,
upper part of the computer, so we should
yeah,
assume a better power
yeah,
pose.
yeah. And that's why I'm not very happy with the modern setting of education, because we sit in the classroom all the time. It's very depressed. So if
Yeah,
I have a chance, I normally just, ask my student, okay, go around, this is your assignment, go to the hall, do something, or have
different.
activities. And that is why it makes them feel better. It's not just because the activities is interesting, it's because our body movement tells us that um, we are feeling rewarded. with that
Good,
comfortable movement. Yeah.
good advice. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to show you this amazing video. I think this is probably one of the best video that I have as evidence for behavioral change. And this is also an evidence against Hofstede as well. That behavior can change a culture and pretty quick as well. So let's have a look. Did you hear the music?
No,
No.
we're not
Oh, you
hearing
don't need the music anyway. It's just background music.
a game.
It's a true story too. Amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. 11 days. 11 days you can change a culture in 11 days by some behaviors. So it started, it is just identify the behaviors that you want to reward people for. Make it a game.
Okay.
And you can change the values.
Reward behaviors.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing for us, for those of us who work in organizational behaviors, because the common theory is that you need to convince people to believe it, and then people can change, right? That's the common theory. No, you don't have to. you can just actually have people, engage in a routine, make it a habit, and they change it. Another example is China with one-child policy. At the beginning, nobody wanted it. I mean, people used to have like a big family in China. Big family is really important in China. And then the government decided that you could have only one child. People were not happy with that. However, now the ban is lifted. People are allowed to have the second child. They don't want it.
they have learned their new routine. That's it.
Exactly. So the deep-seated values of collectivism can change, with a certain behavior. And in this case, the behavior is forced. Well, somehow it passed the threat or the fear level, and people just realize, hey, this is actually good. I love it.
I also think.
Yeah. Anyway, I have come to the end of it, and this is again the framework that we have. We have safety, trigger, reward, emotion, alignment, people, and behavior. And I love behavior. I think behavior is probably my favorite one because it is something that we can do right now. It is something that we can start. We don't have to convince ourselves. Just start with some action and make sure that that action is small enough so we can continue like what I do. I'm trying to learn language, and I'm not going to learn it big. I learn it like 5 minutes per day. If you want to change your lifestyle and do workout, if you want to do it half an hour per day, you fail. Absolutely, 100% you fail. Do it 1 minute per day, 1 minute per day. Everybody can do that. Okay. Start small. Action, start very small, so small that if you can't do it, you need to think like, hey, is it normal?
So you don't have an excuse, right?
I have no excuse. I mean, for people who want to do meditation, I say, okay, so how do you want to start? I say, I will start with 50 minutes of meditation. Like, no. 5 minutes? No. 1 minute? No. Smaller. One breathing in and breathing out. That's how you started, with the smallest unit per day. That's how you need to start, because everybody can do it. And with that, I wanted to finish with something that I thought, and I think that's cool to share. that we may find it very difficult to change, but we are a species that is built to adapt. And we are the only species that can do it deliberately. We deliberately make it a plan, purposely, to change it. And it's difficult, it's challenging, but well, we can do it. And that's it.
Thank you so much.
Professor Mai, thank you very much. Thank you. It was a pleasure having you. I think for me personally, it was very interesting. I study marketing, so I think, wow, this was amazing for me. And I think, well, Professor Rafael was
Very happy, very thankful, you know me.
So I think the
Raphael
rest
is
of the
very helpful to,
participants.
yeah, Raphael is very helpful to make it a little bit awkward. I hate this kind of zooming. I mean, it's not natural, but I love the way that you are so involved. So it's one of the very interactive Zoom section that I have. So thanks, Raphael.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I love the talk. Very interesting, and I hope we can keep in contact. Thank you so much for your talk.
Well, you are very welcome, and I think I have here my
book.
email address, and
Yeah,
I have a sample chapter in the article for this. So if any of you who is interested, just probably leave your email in the chat or contact me directly. I promise I get back.
Thank you, Professor Mai. I don't know if we have before finishing the session, I don't know if we have any questions. You can write it down in the chat. You can just unmute your mic and do the question directly to Professor Mai.
How many people are there? I'm just trying to have a look.
We had 45 participants. Right now we have 31. Some of them had to disconnect, but most of the meeting we had 31 participants. Yeah. So we have someone from Montpellier that wants to connect with you. She's a neuroscientist too. So in the chat you can find her.
Okay, I have no idea how can I get to that. Let's see.
All right, I can send it to you anyways. I can put you both in contact.
Oh, great, thanks.
Yes.